Welcome back to another episode of the A10 Insider Podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. My name is Rob Doster. I have Jeff Goodman with me. We're going to hear from Frank Martin, who sat down with Talia Goodman, Jeff's daughter, and the one with all of the talent in the Goodman family for an interview earlier this week. But before we do, we got to talk about the man of the hour. We got to talk about Fran Dunphy. We got to talk about the guy that just won his 600th game coaching for LaSalle. We're going to hear from him specifically in about 5 minutes. But before we do, Jeff, talk to me about Dump, man. What makes this guy special? Why is he the Philly legend that he is?
You know, when you have the combination like Dump does of being revered by literally everybody in the game, everybody. I mean, there aren't many people you can say this about that you will never hear a bad word about them in college basketball that have won at a high level. And that's Dump. Like, just an elite human being, an elite teacher, a terrific coach who's done it at multiple places. He again, like, obviously he ran the Ivy League for a while. Just did it at Temple. Now he's at LaSalle trying to get that program back and done a good job. He's just one of those guys that, again, when he left the game briefly, I don't know if he did it on his terms, and it's good to have him back in now and he can go out on his terms. Because that's what you always want for these veteran coaches who have been doing it for so long. What you don't want is them to be forced out, whether it's health or another reason. So I'm really happy for Dump. Got his 600. He's trying to get LaSalle back to where he can honestly hand it off to somebody in a much better place than he found it, which is going to happen.
Yeah, you know, my favorite thing about it is, too, he didn't have to come back and do this. Like, he didn't have to come back and coach. He was 72 when he took the job, when he came back, right? Like, he retired, as you said, it may not have been his choice, but when he left Temple in 2019, he was the age that most Americans retire and hang it up and say, all right, look, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go hang out with my grandkids. I'm going to go watch Little League baseball games. I'm going to sit on my couch and wake up at 10 o'clock every day. I'm going to watch reruns of Suits on Netflix nonstop. Like, he was ready to just kind of pack it up.
I think he watches Suits.
Whatever it is, whatever he wants. You know what? I actually do think he would be a Suits guy. That kind of strikes me.
You should ask them if you haven't already. Like, what does Dump watch? Like, when he's sitting at home in the off season, like, what is his go-to show?
All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this right now on the A10 Insider Podcast. I want you to make a prediction, knowing his personality and knowing him. Make the prediction on what his favorite show is. Because I have two I will say I'm 95% sure he's going to be a fan of. The first one is Seinfeld, right? And the second one is Curb Your Enthusiasm. There's no chance that he doesn't like those two shows, right?
You don't think Dump is like a huge Entourage guy?
He could be. I don't know. There's nothing you can tell me about Dump right now that I don't
imagine. If Dump was like, I'm all in for like the Real Housewives.
the Real Housewives of Philadelphia. Hey, you know what? That's a perfect idea for a reality show. Maybe we can get this on the Field of 68 next year. The Real Housewives of the Big Five. All right. Anyway, listen, I love telling the story because it's one of my favorite stories. The first time I ever met Dump was probably 2012. It was at a hoop group event in Philadelphia. It was like my maybe like the third year that I was actually out on the circuit. I was doing work for Hoop Group at the time. I think I was freelancing for NBC, doing stuff for Ballin' as a Habit. And I was sitting in the stands and he comes and sits down next to me. And I pull out of my bag, like I'd just gone to one of the little sub shops down the street. And I had a meatball sub with me, right? And I'm just sitting there and I open up the meatball sub and he just looks at me and he goes, "What do you think makes a good meatball sub?" And I was just like, you need the cheese, you need the toasted cheese. He's like, "Well, I think it needs this." And we sat there and we spent 20 minutes talking about what makes a good meatball sub. He didn't watch a second of the game that we were there to watch. He's just sitting me talking to me about the meatball sub.
He's a regular dude. That's the beauty of Dump.
But here's the thing. After the game, he gets up and leaves and goes and gets his own meatball sub. I made him hungry. So that's, if you want to know what Fran Dunphy is like, that's what he was like.
Because he couldn't watch the game. You had him honestly so distracted about this meatball sub that he could not focus on the game. He just wanted that sub, but he couldn't leave probably till the end of the game. And then he was like, "I got to get the hell out of here and get a meatball sub."
Yeah, and I swear it wasn't just because he was sitting next to me that he left. Listen, let's get into that interview. Fran Dunphy, Talia Goodman, Frank Martin here, A10 Insider Podcast. And now let me welcome on to the A10 Insider Podcast, the man of the hour, fresh off of winning his 600th career game, the winningest coach in the storied history of the Big Five, LaSalle head coach Fran Dunphy. Dunph, what's going on, man? How you doing? Thanks for being here.
Okay, Rob. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Congratulations congratulations on winning 600 games. Is it have you had a chance to kind of look back on the accomplishment yet?
I don't think that's what coaches do. They're just, as soon as the game was over, you're pointing toward Wednesday and playing at Temple in a Big Five game, and it's very nice. And I had a bunch of really nice texts and calls and all those things, and it means I'm up there in years. I've been around a little while, but it's just it's a great testament to how many good players I've had a chance to be around and coach, and many assistant coaches who helped me immeasurably. And that's all. It's just a testament to time more than anything else. It's how I look at it. But again, as soon as the game's over and the number's there, and then you point toward the next challenge that's ahead, and for us, that's Temple on Wednesday tomorrow.
So if I would have told you back in 1989, when you got your first head coaching gig at Penn, that you'd be sitting here in 2023, coaching LaSalle with more career wins than John Thompson, on a list with the likes of Rick Pitino and John Calipari and Bill Self in terms of active coaches with more than 600 wins, what would you have said? Would you have believed me?
Probably not. I don't think you sit back in those days and say, you're a younger version of whoever you are, and you can predict how life is going to go. And so many things have happened. Most of them just awesome to me and for me. So I'm very, very grateful for that, the good fortune that I've had. But you can't predict those kind of things. You live life every day. That's what's so exciting about living life, is all the stuff that's thrown at you every single day, and the challenges that are out there, and the great things that are going to happen. But you're going to get some downtime, and how you're going to handle those down moments is the key to everything. And you just kind of keep plugging away and do the best you can every single day, and you have nothing to be sorry for. And that's where I think I am.
Do you remember win number one?
Oh, of course I do. Of course I do. It was at the Palestra, and it was against Lehigh, and it was one of my good friends who was coaching Lehigh, Dave Duke, who then became one of my assistant coaches for many, many years, both at Penn and at Temple. And so, yeah, I remember it very vividly. And one of my former players texted me yesterday about it, said, I remember number one. And so, yeah, I have the great record. I don't remember any of the plays that happened in it, but I do remember us winning the game, and I was thrilled. I was ready to say, okay, this is too easy. Let me get out of here. I'm not going to do this anymore.
Is it?
Little did I know what challenges were ahead.
Yeah, right. Is it still the same for you? I'm sure that first game you had, jitters, you were nervous. It's your first time moving one seat over on the bench, and now here you are 600 wins later. Do you still kind of, the butterfly's still there before tip-off?
No, very much so. No question about it. I think it's one of the great things that people have in life, this apprehension about what's going to happen, and the opportunities that are out there. It's a phenomenal career. It's a phenomenal opportunity I've had to coach these guys and be around them, and they keep you young, and all three of these institutions that I've been at as a head coach have enabled me to teach a class in the fall semester, which has been just awesome as well. And I love being in the classroom with the kids. So it's terrific. I've been so lucky.
I think my favorite thing about you being at LaSalle right now is you kind of are a connector of eras, so to speak. You mentioned that you guys have Temple now tomorrow night. We're recording this on a Tuesday. It's going to be the first time you're coaching against Adam Fisher. You also coached against John Chaney. You've coached against Raleigh Massimino. You've coached against Jay Wright. You've coached against Kyle Neptune. How does Big 12 basketball now compared to what Big 12 basketball was when you first got started?
Just going to correct you a little bit.
Big five. I'm sorry. Big five. That was bad.
Got the Big 12 on your mind. It's okay. How does it compare? It's, you're just different at this age than you were when I was 40. I was I thought I had some answers, and then quickly about 42, I discovered I had no answers, and it was you got to figure all this stuff out. But you're much more secure now in who you are and in your path of appreciating life and those kinds of things. So yeah, it's different, but every one of those experiences lends itself to how you've lived your life and what's happening during your life. And so again, I can't emphasize how fortunate I've been in my coaching career and just in my whole career. I was down at Duke last week. We played Duke, of course, and did not do very well in the second half. But prior to the game, Mike Krzyzewski came over and we spent some time. We were in the service together many years ago and played some basketball. And just that experience, the Army experience I had, was just incredible. Little did I know when I was drafted in 1970 that I was going to get this opportunity. And one of those opportunities is to get to be friends with a guy who is arguably the greatest coach of all time in our game. And we're still friends today. It's not like we break bread every Wednesday, but we talk and we text, and I'm so grateful for these relationships that I've been able to have.
So when I was asking people for stories to ask you about on this podcast, I think I got 4 responses that all said, ask them about Coach K. I don't know how many people realize that you guys are that close or that you've known each other for that long. Can you just kind of take me a little through the backstory of how you guys got to know each other so well?
Yeah, I mean, it's I was drafted. I was out at Fort Ord. I was shooting 81 millimeter mortars, just about ready to get orders to either Vietnam or Germany. And I got a phone call from the coach of the all Army, all service basketball team, Hal Fisher. He said, "Would you like to try out?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd like to try that." So I was at Fort Ord, and the tryouts were at Presidio. So I took the bus up the next day. First guy I meet when I get off the bus is Krzyzewski. And I shoot jumpers for about 3 days. They put me on the team. They take me out of infantry, put me in personnel clerking. But we travel the United States. We went to Beirut, Lebanon, and Damascus, Syria, and Athens, Greece, and Frankfurt, Germany. And, it's just that bond that's formed whether it's on basketball teams or it's in the Army or whatever it is. In my case with Mike, it was both. It's forever, and that bond is forever. And that was the topic of the conversation that we had with my team. That's the bonds I want you to build. That you have this team that we're on, make it be the best team it can be. Whether or not you win every game is not it's important, no question about it. But it's not what's going to last. What's going to last are those relationships and those bonds. And so we put that message out there. Will these guys get it? Yeah, some will get it right away. Some will get it in 5 years. Some will get it in 10, and some may never get it. But it's the way we need to teach each other that these moments are so important. And that relationship I have with Mike is very important for me.
It's interesting that you mentioned him because he left the game at the same time that you came back to the game. Now that you are heading into year 2 of the second Fran Dunphy era, if you will, are you happy with the decision? Are you enjoying the process? Like where are you at now that you are you're back into the coaching mix?
Yeah, I think every day is an awesome opportunity. I'm back at my alma mater, and I just want to do the very best that I can with this. I do think that there's, like, for example, the game ended on Sunday at 3:00, and I got a chance to get home and watch the Philadelphia Eagles a little bit, and then watch our tape of our game, and then put the tape in of 3 or 4 Temple games and start watching that. But it's those down times when you get them, you need to appreciate them. It's not like you can blow right past them. You got to take a deep breath and really reflect on how the game went, how your guys did, how can you make them better the next day, the notes that you take, the discussions that you have. All of those things they're energizing, to be honest with you. But you do have to grab those down times and really appreciate the reflection moments that you have, and do the best with it that you can. But that relationship that you have with the players is very, very important. And you were them. In my case, 50-some years ago, and I want to help in any way that I can. I wish I had appreciated my time back when I was a student athlete more than I did, and appreciated the time I spent in the Army more than I did. But at least I have the memories, and I can reflect back at how great it was and tell everybody, like you now, how great it was.
I do appreciate that you said that when you got home, the first thing that you did was put on the Eagles game. I told you this at A10 Media Day. My son, we just moved to the Jersey suburbs, the Jersey side of the Philly suburbs, and my son is now diehard Philly everything: Eagles, Phillies, Sixers. Do I have to prepare him for a life of disappointing fandom following these teams? Like, what is he in store for here, Fran?
Yeah, I think he'll find his own level of fandom and be whatever he's going to be. But it's pretty cool for us here in Philly to watch a guy like Jalen Hurts. And then that game on Sunday was just tremendous. Josh Allen's an unbelievable talent, as is Jalen Hurts. But they're leaders, they're quarterbacks, they run the show, and it's just beautiful to watch how they handle themselves. And we're so lucky in Philly. Now we've got Jalen Hurts, we got Tyrese Maxey, which this kid's unbelievable. It's a great player, but seems to be just an unbelievable kid. And so we're fortunate. So let's relish that fact that we have these kinds of people that are leading our teams in a town like Philly. And well, I thought I heard a couple of boos in the first half of the Eagles game, but that's Philly. It's the way it is. And you when you sign the papers and you take one of these jobs, you know the drill. You know what's going to happen.
So I need to ask you, if I'm raising my son right, as an Eagles fan. One of my best friends is diehard Buffalo Bills fan. Grew up in Buffalo. Wears the jerseys in the middle of July, right? Just everything Buffalo Bills. So after the game was over, my son, his favorite player is Jalen Hurts, has his Jalen Hurts jersey on, and he says, "Hey Justin, I bet that lost," and then turns around and points to the Hurts name on the back of the jersey and had me send it to him. Is he doing it right? Is that the way we're supposed to do it here?
Well, with our friends that we have in Philly, that's the only way you probably can handle the situation. So it was funny. One of my texts that I got after this game on Sunday was, "Yo, 600. It took you long enough." So, but that's Philly. It's the way it is, and you figure it out. But your son will have a good life following, hopefully, a really good organization, whether it's any one of the pro teams in this town or any of the colleges. We think we have the best city for college basketball in America, and we do a lot of stuff together. We have a Coaches versus Cancer program that I think brings us all together even more so. But we play each other. We're going to have a triple header at the Wells Fargo Arena on Saturday, and hopefully it'll be a nice celebration of Philly college basketball.
Yeah, my favorite thing about Philly college basketball is that you have these really passionate rivalries where all of the coaches are, I mean, everybody's friends, right? Everybody gets along. Everybody's kind of fighting for the same thing, even though once you kind of get on that court and in between those lines, it's, you can't lose, right?
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, it's a lot of pressure, and you want to beat the pants off of that team you're coaching against. However, when the game's over, that following spring or summer and recruiting, we're typically all sitting together, probably recruiting the same guys, but we're talking, other Philly sports, or we're talking life, and we're together. And I think that's then we're much more than being together. We're very respectful of each other.
All right, last thing I got for you. I don't know if you remember this. The first time that we met was, I want to say it was 2011. I was working for the Hoop Group. There was an event at Philadelphia University, and I walked into the section where the coaches sit to watch the game, and I brought my lunch with me, and I had a meatball sub there, and I happened to sit down. I think you walked in and you sat down next to me, and we spent about 20 minutes throughout the whole next game talking about what makes a good meatball sub. You remember that at all? Do you remember that?
I don't, but I've had similar conversation. It always gets back to the roll.
Yes.
You got to have a good roll to have a good sandwich, whether it's a hoagie or a meatball sandwich or a meatball hoagie or whatever it is you're going to do. But the roll's key. However, in Philly, you can get plenty of really good stuff, whether it's cheesesteaks or meatball subs or hoagies or whatever it is you need. We got it, and it's a great place. Philly's a good place, but you got to know it. You got to know what you're in for, but embrace it, because it will embrace you if you do.
Well, listen, Fran, you know Philly better than anyone. Congratulations on winning 600 games. And, I guess it's right back on the horse, right? Temple, Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Thanks for being
Yeah,
here,
I'm
man.
nervous as a cat, ready to go. And thanks, Rob. Appreciate it very much. Have a great day.
In the first field of 68 tip-off, 3 of the preeminent mid-major programs in the country, 3 of the best coaches. November 30th, Liberty versus FAU. December 1st, Liberty versus Charleston. December 2nd, Charleston versus FAU.
3 up-and-coming programs come together in a very, very creative entity.
There's a reason we're called the Field of 68, right? We want to cover all of college basketball.
We are calling it the Field of 68 tip-off.
Welcome back to the A10 Insider. I am here today, Talia Goodman, here with Frank Martin, the head coach of UMass men's basketball. We're here to talk about your team today, but I insisted on doing this interview today. I wouldn't let my dad do it because the first time I interviewed you, it was 4 years ago, and it was one of the best interviews I've done to this day. So I insisted.
That was awesome. It's like I told you before we got on the call here. I remember 4 years ago you aspiring to pursue this, and I follow closely everything you're doing. Not obviously, your dad is the reason we met, but I follow it because I got a feeling you're gonna be really, really good at this business, and so I like watching young people grow as they spread their wings and pursue what they wanna do, and so anytime you need me, I'm a phone call away.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And you seriously were one of the best interviews I did 4 years ago. But speaking of young people, the first thing I want to start off with here, the last time we saw each other, we were in Massachusetts, and you told me that you were going to drop your daughter off to school. And I think I might have been before, it might have been after, but I know there were some tears involved. So what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, it's the only thing where your dad and I kind of commiserate together on is that he went through it a year before me, and the boys are a little different. Like, get out, you bother me, disappear, don't come back. And and if you need something, call me. If you're in trouble, I don't want to hear from you. With the daughter, it was a little more complicated. It's she actually was home for 9 days, Thanksgiving week, and it was awesome to have her around. And Sunday we took her back to the airport as she headed back to Duquesne. You put up the front as a dad, because you don't want her to struggle because she thinks something's wrong with what she's doing. But as soon as she leaves the car, I'm in the car, and I'm like, it's I'm trusting my little baby girl out there in the real world, but it's complicated. It's hard. It's not easy, but at the same time, just like I know Jeff is proud of you and trusting in you, I'm the same way with Amalia, my daughter. She's she played volleyball at Duquesne this past year, and she didn't get to play as much as she'd like to, but she's the backup setter, and the setter was the rookie of the year in the Atlantic 10. So she backed up a really, really good player, and so she, it was a learning experience for her. But we're really proud. It's hard. It's not easy. Like, her car's parked in the driveway at the house, and I walk by it every morning, and I'm like, damn, I miss my girl. But it's at the same time, really, really proud of her.
Does she call you as much as I call my dad every day? I think today we're already at 3 times.
No, it's she's very independent. Like, here's a great story from your side. All right, so I put my phone like right next to my bed, not for her because of coaching, because you get a call in the middle of the night, one of your players, parent or whatever, you gotta take the call. And so my phone's buzzing one night. It's about 12:30 at night, and I roll over and I look at it, and it's her. And my immediate reaction was like, oh, you know what? Like,
Something.
hello. Yeah. Oh, my heart started racing. Hello. She says, hey, Dad. I said, is everything okay? And she says, yeah, everything's great, Dad. I just think I lost my wallet. And I was like, you sure? Is that it? You just she's like, Dad, that's it. I can't find my wallet. I said I had bought her some tickets. I can't remember the concert. So she went with 3 of her teammates to a concert, and she was calling to let me know that she couldn't find her wallet. So here I am, worried that something had happened, and all it was is she just wanted to share with me she lost her wallet. Good. The good at the end of the story, she got her wallet back. They found it at the concert site, and somebody actually turned it in. So didn't lose anything, and but that's been my one nervous dad story up to this point.
I had a similar experience with my dad, actually, when we were at the Final Four last year. I left my wallet at a hotel Starbucks. He wanted to kill me. I couldn't remember where I left it. He seriously was going to send me home. Like, it was like the day before the Final Four. He was going to send me on a plane back home. Someone found it and managed to call him. It was crazy, but yeah.
But to fully answer your original question, her and I, we text each other a lot more than we actually call. And but it's always powerful when you hear your children's voices. You know, my wife and I, we went from 3 kids in the house. Then my oldest, Brandon, who played for me, he's out. Then Amalia leaves for Duquesne this year, and our little guy, we put him at a New England boarding school at Wilbraham Munson. So we went from a house where it was chaos every day with kids trying to get along, to all of a sudden we just sit there and we look at each other. We're like, should we get in the car and go for a drive? I mean, what are we doing here? Oh my God, it's crazy. It's unreal.
That's funny. That's very funny. Well, now let's get on to talking a little bit about your team. 3-1 to start the season so far. You're on like a week-long break here, but what are your first impressions of this team you have this year?
Yeah, I really like our group. We went on a foreign tour, so we were able to get 10 practices in with them in the summer, and then go to Puerto Rico and play 3 games. And their approach every day is just a lot of fun to be around. They get after it from let's challenge each other, learn from each other, and grow together standpoint. They're fun to be around, and they accept coaching. They don't fight it. There's there's no rolling of the eyes when you take somebody out of a game or some guy, because we got a bunch of freshmen, so they're going to take some bad shots. And so you're in the middle of practice, and some guy takes some horrendous shot, and you're like, what are you doing, man? Like you can't do that. There's no like, man, let me play my game. And you don't have any of that stuff. And then defensively, they fight for what I'm teaching. They genuinely, they want to please. They want to please our academic folks on campus. We did all kinds of community service with them this summer. And they were awesome at every one of those events, and then in practice every day they come in and they want to please. And so how good are we? I don't know. I'll figure that out as we go along, because we got too many first year guys. But they're fun to be around, and we got a guy from Beverly, Mass.
Yeah.
Matt Cross is. I'm really happy for Matt. Matt's dug his feet in, and he's grown tremendously, and he's off to a really good start this year.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Matt. He's been really impressive so far. It's taken a little while for him to kind of come into himself, but he leads in scoring for you guys, shooting well from 3. How impressive has he been for you so far?
Yeah, it's the best word I can use for Matt is he's at peace. He's found an environment where he likes his teammates, he likes the coaches. He's our academic lady has been unbelievable for him. He's found he's gonna get a degree here in May, so he's found his joy. I mean, and the joy is a result of him being at peace. So now he can work to grow and get better, and that's where his joy is coming from. But he's a good player. I understand him a lot better now as a player. I think he understands what I want also, so that makes things a little easier from a productivity standpoint. And I don't say this as a knock to how he would utilize at Miami or Louisville. That's not like I do this for a business, for a living. I don't criticize decisions other coaches make. We all have to do what we feel is the best for our team in that moment. But Matt's always been played like as a pick and pop 4-man and stand in a corner. And I've always thought he's got this inner toughness about him, and he's 230 pounds, and his ability to rebound and get to the foul line, and his aggression near the rim, I thought was something that needed to be utilized and grown for him. And he's bought into that, and he's actually done a heck of a job with it. So I'm really. He had 16 rebounds in a game the other day. I'm really happy. I'm happy for Matt, and I'm happy with Matt, because sometimes we're happy for people but not happy with them. I'm happy both ways with them right now.
How cool was it for you to kind of, like, when you figured out, you said you started to understand him more as a player, and you figured out what he needed to do and what he was good at. How cool is that for you as a coach, just to see that growth throughout even just the short amount of time?
Yeah, that's a loaded question now. That's a loaded question, because in the moment we're in right now with all the transferring and jumping of schools and all that. And when I mean loaded question, for me personally, not for the moment, not for college basketball, for me, for Frank Martin. Because the only reason that I'm in year number 40 is because that's what I enjoy. I enjoy watching growth. What gets me to come back, it's like playing golf. I hit balls behind trees, in the water, miss 2-foot putts. But then I hit that one ball that it's like, oh my God, I can actually do this. And it makes me come back and play again, even though I know that I'm going to lose a dozen golf balls and not be any good. Well, it's the same way in coaching. When you can see that growth, from that one individual that starts to figure stuff out and spread their wings, and as people start getting better, they feel better about themselves. They start to kind of relax and let people in as to who they are, because they start feeling more confident with themselves. And and being around Matt as he's going through that journey, him and Rasul Diggins, who's another young man that's with us for his second year, where they're at now compared to where they were a year ago, it's day and night. And that's what drags me back to a sideline year after year after year, is the joy that I get watching people get better. And the reason I say it's a loaded question for me is because the world we're in right now, can you keep a nucleus of guys together for 2, 3, 4 years so you can enjoy growth? And then how do I handle, we're in year 2 of all this transferring stuff. Yep. And I was right in the middle of a firing of all, when all this stuff was going on. Mm-hmm. So I got, reinvigorated and rejuvenated to new job, new school, new people. So I'm all this, but 2, 3 years from now, if we keep having roster turnover every year, and it's all about just winning games this year, not about watching young people build a relationship with them and grow, am I still going to enjoy it? I know I enjoy it right now, but will I enjoy it 3 years from now? I don't know. That's why I said it's a loaded question. And
how hard is that this year too? I mean, you have a bunch of new guys. How hard is it to build chemistry with them? Well, I
still believe in the freshman model. That's why we got 7 freshmen on our team. I still believe that if you offer people who you are and you give of yourself to make their lives better, that still has value in the world. I refuse to believe that everything is a transaction, monetary transaction, even though that's a lot more important to a lot of people than it used to be. So it's I'm still going to pour myself into their lives and give them everything I got to help them grow. Basketball is what brings us together, and the journey of basketball is what helps us grow together. And I still believe in that. I refuse to give in to that. And the day that has no value anymore, I'll probably be the best looking guy on the show field of the 68, because I'm going to talk to Rob Douster to make sure I can replace that guy, Jeff Goodman.
I think you should. I think you're better off. And I hope I'm not associated too much with him today doing this. I think it should
No,
be
no,
you.
no. No, I like picking on him, Jeff. As you know, we've known each other from he was a young guy selling recruiting services, and I just young guy in the business, and neither one of us had anything, and we'd commiserate how miserable we were at the time. Now we commiserate on our daughters being successful. How about that?
Oh, well, it happens. You mentioned earlier the foreign tour that you went on this summer to Puerto Rico.
Yep.
How cool was that for you to just have that opportunity to have the chemistry? And then how much gambling, how much swimming, how much of that did you do?
Well, I purposely didn't coach the games. I ran practices, but I didn't coach the games. Why? Because we had so many first-year players. I didn't want, when you're coaching, you're facing the court. I wanted to sit on the other side of the court and face the bench, so I can see. Number one, I've got 3 former head coaches on my staff, so I've got perfect people there to make decisions. But I wanted to see how players handled getting taken out of a game, how they handled conversations on the bench after good and bad plays. Did they root for themselves or they root for each other? Did they just root for certain players? And so I purposely sat on the other side so I can watch that. And that's what gave me hope that we've got a good group of guys together. It's because they celebrated the team. They celebrated whoever made a play. And whenever someone made a mistake, there was no whatever. It was like help that guy out, go pick him up and give him spirit to go make the next play. And it was really fun to sit there and watch. The foreign tours are huge, and especially in today's day and age with so many new rosters. It allowed me to have a much better understanding of my team when September started, so I get a feel for how they're going to manage practice and a game situation because of that. If not, I'd have to wait till we scrimmaged an exhibition game and probably 2 games in before I ever had a feel as to how guys are going to handle certain situations and certain things. So it's huge, and a lot of credit to my bosses that they agreed to do that at such a early stage of my time here at UMass. It was needed and extremely helpful. And yes, I did sit out by that beach, and I'm not an adventurous kind of zip line and jump, parasailing and all that stuff. I like my feet being on the ground, but I did enjoy the ocean, and I sat on that beach as long as I could.
Like you said, it's cool that you were able to do that in just your second year here. Being in your second year, how much more comfortable are you than when you first got to UMass?
I mean, the people I work for and with, I got a much better understanding of the community, the campus, my boss, the support staff that my boss has hired in the athletic department, and how to better communicate. Just because my job title is this doesn't mean everyone should show up and do everything I ask or need. That's not the way it works. I've got to understand I was the new person here, not the other way around. And I need to understand what matters here and the values and who the people are here. And I needed to understand that so then I can better do my part, so then they can hopefully reciprocate that commitment to help us, because we all got to work together. I can't do this by myself. Our staff can't do it by ourselves. We have to have an unbelievable connection with athletic administration and support staff to be able to rebuild this place. And but much better understanding there. The recruiting part of it, I've always recruited the Northeast, so it's just a lot easier to travel now where I go, rather than everywhere I went I had to take a 2.5-hour flight. Now I just get in my car and drive an hour and a half, and I cover everything I need to cover for the most part. But and then the last part, the A10. The A10's a really good league. The A10's got really good players, really good coaches. I never coached in an A10 building before. Actually, that's not true. I coached the game at UMass. I don't know, 2 years after the Final Four in 19, I want to say. But outside of that, I never coached a game in the A10. So being through the league now, once I got a better understanding for for the environments that we play in. Just some great home court environments. Like, I'm like, wow, I was blown away. I can understand why the A10. It's a league that the big boys don't like to schedule home and homes with. I understand why. They don't want to complain these buildings.
Where were you most blown away by?
St. Bonaventure, VCU, name it. I mean, I sat on the bench as an assistant at Cincinnati when we went into Dayton. I know Dayton, 16,000 people every time they play. I know what that deal is. But you know, LaSalle had a heck of a turnout for our game against them. I mean, I can go on and on. I mean, every time we walked into a building, it was packed and just like passion. The only one that didn't have a great crowd was GW, but that was like during the Christmas break, so everybody was off campus. And those are a challenge at every school you coach at. That's but every game we played was incredible. Now, you know, after 10 years in the SEC, I can recite what John Calipari or Ben Howland or whoever was going to run after a timeout. I could go in their huddle and draw up the play for them, just like they can draw up the play for my team. They knew what I was going to do. Well, now being through the league, I've never coached against these guys. Anthony Grant, but we grew up together, so I know the way he thinks anyway. So it's like I didn't need to coach against him before to understand that. So I've got a better feel for the league, the players in it, the coaches in it, style of play, the officiating. Officiating's different. I mean, when I went from the Big 12 to the SEC, the officiating was different. You know, the way the games are called, it's just different. It is what it is. And I don't say that in a bad way. It's just they're human beings and they're led by different people, and you know, and it is what it is. It's the way it works. And so I'm in a much better place from all that. Does any of that help us win a game? I got no idea, but at least I feel a little bit better. I know when I walk into St. Bonaventure this year, I'm not going to be surprised when there's not a seat available in the whole building. I know what I'm walking into right now.
What's been the biggest difference, the biggest adjustment that you've had to get used to?
Oh boy. The recruiting. Yeah, I spent 20 years recruiting high major basketball. Cincinnati in the Big East, K-State in the Big 12, and then South Carolina in the SEC. And when you're recruiting to go win those leagues, there's a size and athleticism component that I was always kind of saying, those are guys I got to go get. Those are guys I got to go get. And then I got here, and then every time, and this is where I'm going with this, with the recruiting part, I go watch somebody, I'd be like, he's not quite good enough. He's not quite big enough, not quite athletic enough. And I passed on some guys in my first year that spring I'm talking about, when I first got hired, that I probably, if I had to hit a do-over, I probably would have said, you know what, I should have taken them, but I didn't. And I quickly realized, like, I'm not recruiting in the SEC anymore. Those guys at that size and that athleticism, they're probably going to the SEC and the Big 12. And so I'm wasting my time chasing those guys. Let me go find guys that not that they're not good enough. We still got to get guys that are good enough to beat those guys. But we got to maybe go find that next level guy that's not as heralded or popular, that doesn't quite jump as high, but still gets a lot done as a basketball player. And that's probably been my biggest adjustment.
What do you feel like you've learned about your team so far this year, from the schedule that you've had and that one loss to Harvard, the close loss?
Resilience. They show up the next day, ready to go. You know, everyone puts a lot into when you lose games. And yeah, you got to learn from failure. Talia, I used to say this all the time as a math teacher. If I only taught my students after they failed a test, I was a bad teacher. I had to figure out a way to teach even after you had success as a student. And that's you're always trying to grow. And if you're already here, well, I got to help you get here. And and if you got to step back, well, that doesn't mean I lower the expectation. I just got to pick you back up so we can get back up to that point. And um, you know, the guys have been really good, even after wins. We've had a couple of I don't like saying easy wins. That's because winning is so difficult. But we've had a couple games where things went our way, and we come in the next day, and I'm ready. I'm like, after 40 years, I know, like, all right, these young guys want to show up. They think we're going to have an easy day. They just go out there and compete their tails off in practice. And I'm like, wow, I don't have to get mad. I'm like, this is incredible. So that resilience to grow every day. And after Harvard, guys were hurt in the locker room because we controlled the game. We played to our personality. We didn't shoot it well from the three, but we still shot it well enough to win. The problem was we missed 15 free throws in regulation, and you can't win a good game when you miss 15 free throws in regulation. And so guys were hurt that we lost that game. But we didn't come in the next day with loser's limp going on. We came in the next day ready to go, and guys were geeked up and competitive. And so that's why the one thing that I've learned about these guys at an early stage this year.
How many free throws did you make him shoot the next day?
No, we talked about, I used to do that when I was young, like overreact to everything like all young people do. It's that youthful energy that you just, things don't go don't go the way you want them to. You think the end of the world is coming. And when they go really good, then you go over celebrate because you think things are going to be easier. The older you get, the more you realize that overreacting to good and bad is not a very intelligent thing to do. I heard some coach say the other day, I think it was Tom Osborne. He said, as soon as that game ended, he was happy and he would celebrate until he walked in the locker room. And as soon as he walked in the locker room, it was over. It was behind him, and it was back to the next day and the mindset. And that's kind of the way I am. That's the way I kind of do things. And it's I don't know. It's a lot of fun, and it's a journey that you got to find the recruits that fit that mindset, so you can go through, because the journey is really complicated and really hard. It's not. I'm making it sound like it's a little easier than it is sometimes. The winning and losing, the overreaction to the good and the bad, by your players, and because of social media, by the people that are in their lives, it's over the top. And we used to be able to shield our players from the outside noise, because the overreaction by fans and public it's always been the same. But we can't shield that noise from players anymore. So now we're constantly trying to manage that noise, from athletes, and it's the new challenge that we as coaches, we didn't sign up for that one. We've been assigned that responsibility. So it's we got to deal with it. It comes with the job now.
Yeah, it's like you got to deal with the social media like you got to deal with it with your kids. They're your other kids. You gotta handle it.
That's correct. That's correct. And it's not going away. So I can't be this old, boring guy and say, I didn't grow up with that. I don't need it. Why do you? That's irrelevant. It's part of your age group, and it's part of your life. And my job is to help you, not tell you how much I know, or not tell you how I learned. It's my job to help your age group. And so I need to understand it and deal with it so I can help the players and my children.
Yeah. Well, we've talked a little bit about the A10 and just the crowds, all the transitions. Did you have any specific goals coming into this year in league play and just overall?
I get really boring with that kind of stuff, because I've got too much respect for how difficult winning is. But the bottom line is, I was asked when I first got hired at K-State, when I didn't know anything from anything. And they asked me, what's your goal? And I said, our goal is to win the Big 12 championship. And the longer I've done this, the more I realize that that is always goal number one. You know, now when do you achieve that goal? I got no idea. Is it this year, next year, the year after? I don't know. But the journey is to chase an Atlantic 10 championship. And that's what the goal is. This school used to do this school. Think about this, that when Calipari and the fellows were here, this school won the Atlantic 10 regular season and postseason tournament 6 straight years. That's like, I'm like, I don't know any other school's ever done that. Like, they might have won the regular season 6 in a row, but to win the regular season and the postseason tournament 6 years in a row, it's like, I'm like, wow. So I just want to win the A10 championship. I've been unbelievably lucky in my journey. And I've been around a lot of success. Came real close to winning the Big 12. Came real close to winning the SEC, but didn't quite get it done. And and so it's winning a conference championship is something that as I get older, I've done the Elite Eights and the Final Fours. I've coached games and looked down the bench and seen Jim Boeheim and Mike Krzyzewski and Bob Huggins and all the great ones. And I've walked away from those games and I've won my fair share of those games. And so that selfishly, that kind of is a lot of fun. The Final Fours, like I'll do whatever I got to do to figure out a way to coach again in a Final Four. It's the most incredible experience professionally that I've ever been a part of. The journey to get there, the commitment from everybody to get there, and then managing that game in front of 78,000 people. Like, are you kidding me? Like me, I'm coaching my team in front of 78,000 people. I'm like, it's unheard of. But the one thing that I have not had the opportunity to do is win a conference championship. And so that's something that has kind of crept up the list of things that I'd like to try and accomplish.
So you'll go for one, and then you'll go for 5 more in a row, and then you'll be good.
That's when you go. It's like I tell people, this is not like little. This isn't like what do you call it? Like people like to say, like coach speak or whatever. This isn't like sexy language. This is reality. It's that week leading into the Final Four was like nothing I've ever experienced professionally. Walking through a football tunnel to 78,000 people to go get up on a stage and then sit on a stool and know that everyone there's coming to watch my team play, whether they're rooting for or against. It's incredible. And then you're down 14, and before you know it, you're up 2, and you lose a heartbreaker, and you're disappointed, you're crushed, you feel for your players, the journey, the commitment. You don't get there by mistake. And now you wake up like 2, 3, 4 days later, and you're like, man, I got to figure this out, because like coaching on Saturday was fun. I want to try and coach on Monday now. I got to figure out a way. And I remember losing in the Elite Eight to Butler and saying, man, that was fun. And the adrenaline of thinking that we had a chance to go to the Final Four and then it not happening, it crushes you. But that feel, those extreme emotions, it's like, I want to live that again and I want to overcome it. And I was fortunate enough that I was a part of it at South Carolina. And then we overcame that one. Well, now I've had this itch, like, I want to coach on Monday now. Like the Saturday stuff was incredible. I think I'll be better prepared to manage the week. So hopefully we can play a little better on Saturday. And then give me a chance. In high school basketball, I coached in that final game in 16 years, 9 or 10 times. So I lived that in high school basketball. I'll I don't know if it's going to come or not. I don't lose sleep about it, but I'm going to work as hard as I can to try and figure out a way to get to Monday one time.
The last question I've got for you here. I saw that they are auctioning off a dinner with you right now. Where is your plan to take this winner to dinner? What's your favorite spot?
Well, there's the people that are putting the auction together, they asked me, and I said, if you get the number right, I will cook, and my wife and I will host the dinner at the house.
Oh, no way.
And I will cook either their culture food or I'll cook my culture food, and combination of a Cuban American dish, whatever. I love cooking. I'll cook whatever. But if they don't want that, then we'll go to a restaurant of their choosing. So the people that are bidding, they get to pick the restaurant that we go to if that's what they want.
Are you a good cook? You got to pitch yourself right now so that they want that.
I get after it in the kitchen. I made 2 turkeys for Thanksgiving. I smoked one on the Traeger for 16 hours.
Whoa.
And I cooked it Cuban style, and then I deep fried one with some Cajun seasonings. So I enjoy the kitchen. The kitchen's fun, and whether it's cooking something simple or like a really good pasta dish or my what I grew up in, rice and beans and some form of meat, and I like the kitchen. I enjoy it, and so does my wife, and she's Jamaican, so every once in a while she cooks a Jamaican dish and I'll cook a Cuban dish, and away we go. Have a lot of fun.
Well, I think we're gonna have you come over and teach my dad, because the only thing he can do is flip burgers. Like, legitimately the only thing.
Like other than criticize everyone that has a job like mine, is there anything else and be your dad? Is there anything else that he's good at? Like,
No,
I mean, holy.
I have to show you. I'll have to show you this video. He tried to put together some kind of furniture in my apartment when I moved in. It was the easiest thing probably ever. Couldn't figure out how to put 2 pieces together. Like, literally could not. I have a video of him almost crying. Can't do a single thing.
I mean, my God, at least he's a real good dad. I mean, at least he's a real good dad, because I mean, if it wasn't for criticizing coaches, like, I don't know what he'd be good at. I'm like, holy cow! He tried to play softball, tore up his knee or his Achilles. I don't know what he tried to do. Like I don't. Oh my God, it's unreal.
I don't even know what he needs to stick to. He's got to figure it out. But anyways, thank you so much for joining me today, Frank. I really appreciate it. And hopefully I'll talk to you again soon.